Hey guys, it's Jessii V. So I originally wasn't going to tell this story because what happened to me really freaked me out. And I'm always scared that if I talk about something paranormal that happened in my house, the ghosts are gonna come and get me or something. Because I've always been told that if you pay attention to the paranormal thing that's happening to you, it will just get worse. But I just kept thinking of how good of a V-time this would be because I like to entertain you guys. And I really think that you may enjoy this story. So yes, I am going to tell it. What is this? What am I doing with my hands right now? The beginning of this story takes place 3 years ago, and the end of this story takes place a month ago. And I know that sounds a bit confusing, but bear with me and learn from the mistakes that I made, as usual. So 3 years ago, I went on vacation with my family to the Dominican Republic. It was a very last-minute trip. My parents, out of the blue, were like, hey, so we're going to the Dominican next week, by the way, pack some bags. It was kind of weird, but my sister and I were really excited about it. I mean, who wouldn't be excited to go on an unplanned vacation? When I was back in high school or elementary school, my favorite thing in the world was when my parents were like, you're not going to school for the next 3 days, Jess. We're going on vacation.
No school.
The only thing I never looked forward to was the plane rides. I probably held on to the sides of my seat on that plane so hard that the cushioning fell off. It just crumbled in my hands. You should have seen me when I flew to Estonia. A 10-hour flight did not bode well with me. That's 10 hours of sitting in the air. And because I get so anxious sitting down for a long period of time, every once in a while I wanted to kind of just get up and sort of walk through the aisles of the plane or go to the bathroom or something to just like move. And the flight attendant would always come up to me and be like,
excuse me, you can't be standing on the plane. Please sit down and put your seatbelt on.
Like, I'm sorry, am I harming anybody by just standing for 3 seconds? And this lady was everywhere. When I thought the coast was clear for me to stand up on the plane, she'd just like pop out of nowhere and be like,
excuse me, I already told you to sit down. Excuse me. Excuse me.
Anyways, I had to get that out of my system. Anyways, so we finally get to the Dominican and we have to take this like rickety old van to the resort. The roads were literally at the very edge of these like mountains. I guess they were more of like just really tall hills. But if the driver even sneezed, we would probably just tumble down.
No more vacation for us.
Dun dun dun. So like the third day of our trip, I was just walking down the beach and there was this certain point where I began to walk off the hotel's property. And there was this security guard there who said that if I continued to walk down this beach, which went off the resort, I would no longer be monitored. And I basically had to sign this form that said if I got killed or kidnapped, that the hotel was not responsible. That sounds pretty creepy, doesn't it? But the hotel does need to cover their butts. But my parents were with me, so we just decided to walk for a couple minutes. We wanted to explore. And then we came across this man. And he had this little wooden table set up and he was just sitting in the sand. He was carving these wooden dolls. They were like statue-like dolls though, because they were carved out of wood, so like they felt like a statue sort of, but they were carved to look like dolls, if you know what I mean. Each one of them had this different creepy face. I don't know why, but I suddenly had this urge to buy some. I mean, I wanted to get souvenirs from my trip anyways, so why not get these awesome wooden carvings that a local made? I mean, this guy was selling them handmade and they were cheap. So I was like, yeah, this is super cool. So I got one for me and I got one for my boyfriend. Mine was this carving of a creature-like man who had a really big mouth and giant teeth. He was kind of just sitting and he had this large piece of wood sticking out of his head. And then I got my boyfriend one that looked like half man, half owl, half monster. So these doll statue things were really creepy. And you guys are probably like, what the heck was she thinking? And all I can say is that they looked really cool in the moment. Like, I wasn't thinking like, oh my gosh, these things are gonna kill me. I remember that as I was putting these 2 dolls into my bag, the guy who was selling them told me something in a really serious face, but he was speaking Spanish and I unfortunately couldn't understand him, so I never know what he told me, and I wish I did because maybe I wouldn't have bought these things, because the way he looked at me, it was almost like he was telling me some sort of warning, but I don't know. So we enjoyed enjoyed the last few days of our trip, and then we headed home to nice and cold Canada. Back into our igloos. So I put the doll carving that I got on a shelf in my room, like right beside my bed. I have this shelf where I put everything that I've collected from my trips over the years. I have stuff from Estonia, Paris, London, Barbados, LA, all kinds of places. So this little dude that I got, I placed like right beside that stuff on the shelf. About 2 or 3 months after being home, this doll started doing really weird stuff. Every couple of weeks, it would fall off my shelf in the middle of the night. It would wake me up every single time because of how loud it hit the floor. Because I mean, this thing was made out of like solid wood, so it was really heavy. And because of how heavy it was, I never understood how it managed to be knocked over. There were lighter things on that shelf right beside it, and those things never fell to the floor. But I still tried to be rational. I was thinking, okay, maybe my shelf is just off kilter. I mean, in situations like that, you have to try and think logically. And I'm not talking like 2 or 3 times that this happened. I'm talking like once or twice a month for 3 years straight. And what was so creepy was that it would always be lying on the floor face up after it got knocked over. I would always peer over my bed to see where this thing fell, and this creepy smiley face would always be peering back at me. Why did I not get rid of it? Because stupid Jess over here thought the doll was really awesome looking. I didn't want to throw out an important souvenir from my trip. It was like the only thing I got. And the other weird thing was that every once in a while, there would be a spider on the ceiling right on top of it. And it was never a small spider. It was always pretty big and juicy. And I always call my dad into my room whenever I have a spider because I am not touching something furry that crawls. And he even started mentioning how weird it was that every time he went to kill a spider, it was always over top of this doll on the shelf. Always, or just around the doll. If you guys remember that paranormal video I made like 4 to 5 months ago, all that weird stuff I mentioned that was happening in my house all occurred the first year I brought home this statue doll. And I've still had this creepy doll up until a month ago. And let me tell you why I finally decided to get rid of it. You guys are probably like, took you long enough, Jess. Okay, so I went to my grandma's house last month for dinner, and while my grandma is making dinner, we always have these like deep conversations for some reason, and a lot of the time it ends up going in like a paranormal direction. She'll tell me like stories from her childhood with like ghosts and all kinds of weird stuff like that, and she started telling me this weird story that happened to her. She told me that a few years ago she went to an island on vacation. I can't remember where she went. I probably should have asked her before I filmed this video, but she bought this like totem pole statue. I don't know if it was like a totem pole, but it had like all kinds of faces like stacked on top of each other, and it was like handcrafted out of wood by a local. And yeah, she just bought it like off the side of the road. She just saw this guy carving things and she got it. And when she came home from her trip, she put it on the mantle on top of her fireplace because it looked good there. And yeah, since she did that, she was experiencing all these paranormal things in her house, and she was having really bad luck in her life. And one day she was just in her living room looking at the totem pole on top of her fireplace, and she got really close to it and kind of looked at it, and she saw that at the very bottom of this totem pole there was this devil carved out, and like his arms were like spread across like the bottom of the statue, and it looked really creepy. It had these horns and everything, and for some reason she had never noticed it before. So she told my grandpa to take it to the garage and destroy it, and so he did. And then he took it to like the garbage dump, and yeah, it was gone from their house. And after that, their lives went back to normal. There was nothing paranormal happening in their house. Everything was cool. And then she finished her story and she looked at me and goes, "Thank goodness you never had one of those things in your house." And I was like, actually, I gotta tell you something. And I told her about this statue doll thing that I had carved out of wood in my room, and I told her how it always fell off my shelf and caused this big ruckus, and I told her about all the paranormal stuff happening in my house, and she was like, "Jess, this is not good." And she told me that we should go on Google and like try and see if we could look up this doll. And that's what we did. We searched like voodoo dolls in the Dominican Republic or like evil statues. I can't remember. We searched like a few things, and we finally found this website. This website was really creepy actually. It was talking about all this voodoo stuff, and on the very first page of this website was the exact doll that I had in my room. And underneath this picture of the doll statue thing, it had this like long pair paragraph talking about like, if you have this doll in your home, please get rid of it right away. It'll bring you bad luck. It's evil. It was like, had all this stuff written down. Just so many warnings. And at that point, my heart just like stopped and I got so scared. And I was like, listen, Grandma, I gotta get home and destroy this thing. So that's what I did. I got home and told my parents about everything that was happening. And my dad decided to take the initiative to destroy it. So like my grandpa did, he took the doll into the garage and like hit it with an axe, and yeah, it was destroyed. And then he just got rid of the pieces out of our house. And then my sister Mandy came over and like cleansed the house with sage. And honestly, since then, which was a month ago when we got rid of it, nothing weird has been happening, and I mean the house feels just calm and relaxing again. But yeah, I thought I'd just tell you guys because first of all, it's an interesting story, but second of all, just as a lesson to you guys. And this does not mean in any way that when you go on vacation and locals are making awesome statues that they're evil. That is not it at all. In fact, it's probably really rare that you'll find something evil. Most locals are really sweet people that are just making things for tourists, and it's not evil in any way. But all I'm saying is that if what you want to buy looks a little iffy, it might be good to just ask some questions to make sure that you're not taking home something that could ruin your life. Yeah, just always ask questions. Questions are good. Well, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this veetime. Be careful what you buy. And yeah, I hope you guys have a really awesome day. As usual, my social media information is in the description, along with my vlog channel and my P.O. Box information. So check it out. And until next time, guys, bye!